In this video, I'm going to show you how to do some simple one variable rearrangements. Let's get started. Say we have this problem, 25 equals 50x. Refocus that. 25 equals 50x. How do we get x alone? Well, since 50 is multiplied by x, we need to divide both sides by 50. And when we do that, we actually reduce this down to 1. And the other side is 25 divided by 50, so this equals 1x. Now usually we don't write 1x, we just write x, because it's assumed that there's a 1 in front of the x. So when I reduce this fraction, I get 1/2 equals x. Let's try a different one. So number 2, 16 equals 35 divided by x. Now for this one, what we need to do is actually take this x and multiply it by both sides. So we're going to multiply the x by the right side and multiply it by the left side. When we do that, we reduce this down to 1. X over x is 1, and 1 times 35 is 35. So it's 16x equals 35. Now we can divide both sides by 16 just like we did with this one and isolate x. So we reduce this to 1. X is equal to 35 over 16, which is equal to approximately 2.19. Alright, so that's multiplication and division. Let's do an addition problem and a subtraction problem. 2.5 equals 5.2 plus x. Now, just like with the multiplication, what we have to do is isolate x. So if we are adding a number plus x, we can subtract that number and isolate x. So we subtract 5.2 from both sides. When we do that, we end up with negative 2.7 on the left and x on the right. So x equals negative 2.7. And if you plug this back into the equation, you'll see that 5.2 plus negative 2.7 is equal to 2.5. Next one, we're going to do one that involves subtraction of a variable. So 13.2 equals 22 minus x. And we could do this two ways. We could start with the x or we could start with the 22. I'll start with the 22. We'll go ahead and subtract this out. We subtract it because it's a positive number. Just like this one is a positive number. That's a positive 5.2. This is a positive 22. So we can subtract. And we're going to subtract on both sides. 13.2 minus 22 is equal to negative 8.8. And that is equal to negative x. Anytime you end up in a situation like this where you have a negative and a negative, you can divide by negative 1. So we'll divide both sides by negative 1, and when we do that, we basically get rid of that negative, so we end up with 8.8 equals x. Alright, last couple, take it a step further, include addition and division or multiplication. 105 equals x plus 22 divided by 5. We're going to treat the numerator as one entity and the denominator as one entity. So we can multiply both sides by 5 and we end up with 525 equals x plus 22 because I've reduced this now to 1. So I basically get rid of the denominator. Then I multiplied 5 by 105 to get 525. Now I can take this, subtract 22, just like we've been doing, and end up with 503 equals x. Next one, let's put the variable in the bottom. 75 equals 5 over x minus 15. We're going to treat this as one entity, so I'm actually going to multiply both sides by x minus 15. Kind of didn't leave myself enough room over here. When I do this, I basically get rid of the denominator on the right-hand side, and now I have to distribute on the left-hand side. When I distribute, I end up with 75x minus 1125 equals 5. Now I can follow the same rules I've been doing. I'm just going to isolate x plus 1125. 75x equals 1130. And then divide both sides by 75. And then what we get here, x is equal to 15.0667. Okay, I hope that helps you solve some of these algebraic problems.